Thank you so much for choosing to be here. Boy, grief and loss early in the morning. That's just really good, isn't it? But I hope that this is going to be helpful. And I have a little confession to make. When they asked me to speak on this subject 6 months ago, it was this topic: ministers, funerals, and grief. And then I get here Tuesday, and it says on there grief and loss. So I thought, okay, what we're going to do? And I said, we're going to do both. So that's what we hope to do. And I hope that it will be helpful in that regard. And there's some free handouts right over here on the other side. Also, on both of these podiums are some books that we wrote through the years on grief. And if you're interested in that, Walking with Those Who Weep was the first one. We call it Grief 101 because there's 13 chapters that some churches have taken and used on Wednesday nights in Bible classes. But then also the other book, Hope for Those Who Struggle, deals with specific kinds of losses. And so if you're interested in those, you can see me about that. I also have a table downstairs when you go in the vendor area, all the way to the right in the back, next to the natural disaster people, and there's some there as well. Well, you're thinking, okay, why would I come to a class at 9 o'clock in the morning to talk about or listen to a subject that I may or may not even want to think about? Those are good questions. I've been a minister for 48 years. I was a preacher's kid. I didn't like going to funerals as a kid. I remember on one occasion my grandmother taking my twin brother and I to a funeral. We were 10, and so she chose for us to sit upstairs, because she wanted to make sure we would behave ourselves. And one of us threw a spitball and got in some trouble for it. And we'll just leave it at that, but you're looking at him. But I could blame it on him, but I'd have to tell the truth and whatever. In 1985, when I was a minister in Northwest Alabama, Bill McDonald, some of you may know that name. He's a funeral home director in Centerville, Tennessee. He's also an elder of the church. And he does a great deal of work in grief and got us started in that. Was talking about preachers and grief and made the statement that they're the second worst equipped group of people to deal with grief. And that sort of hit me between the eyes. And so thankfully Bill started sharing some information with me. I started doing some research, things of that nature. And then in 1992, I started a 10-week grief class where I was preaching there in the Guin, Alabama area. Have been doing that for the last 30 years. And I've learned more from those 700-800 people who've been a part of those classes than all the books that I've read on the subject itself. During that time also, I took a 60-hour class at the University of Alabama on thanatology, which is the study of death, and learned some things about that as well. And then we began in 1996, my brother and I began to do grief workshops. And so for 30 years now, we've been doing those. Some of you have talked about being a part of that in regards to us coming, and we've really appreciated the opportunity to do that and continue to do so now that I'm retired. We have 115 places that we have gone in the last 30 years, some 17 states. In the last 10 years, we've also done dementia cancer workshops as well. With all that idea in mind, I want us to think about grief from our own perspective. And I want you to listen to this and then tell me what you think. Terry Kettering writes, "There's an elephant in the room. It's large and squatting, so it's hard to get around it. Yet we squeeze by with, 'How are you?' 'I'm fine,' and 1,000 other trivial forms of chatter. We talk about work. We talk about the weather. We talk about everything else except the elephant in the room. There is an elephant in the room. We all know it's there. We're thinking about it as we talk. It's constantly in our minds. For you see, it's a very big elephant. But we don't talk about the elephant in the room. Oh, please say her name. Oh, please say Barbara again. Oh, please, let's talk about the elephant in the room. For if we talk about her death, perhaps we can talk about her life. Can I say Barbara? And have you not looked away? For if I cannot, you're leaving me alone in a room with an elephant. As the body of Christ, 1 Corinthians 12 tells us that we need to rejoice with those who are rejoiced and also weep with those that weep. And yet so many times with those people in our congregation or our family, we talk about trivial things. We may ask them that question right out there in the foyer with all people around them. Well, how are you doing? You know what the number one answer is? I'm fine. And so many people in my class have told me, I say that because that's what they want to hear. I say that because today I am feeling that way. 2 hours later, I may feel differently. I say that because I'm afraid that if I really answer the question, that they'll turn away, or that they'll begin to tell me about their own grief, and I've got too much to carry already. Very, very true in that regard. It also may be that we don't tell them how we are doing in our grief journey because we're afraid of the should statements. You should be doing this. You should not feel that way. You need to be, it's been 6 months. You should be over that by now. 80% of folks who make should statements don't really know what they're talking about. They aren't sitting where you're sitting. They haven't been in your shoes. They haven't had the losses that you have. They're often just repeating what others have said. And so typically that's what happens. Today we live in a microwave, millisecond, instant, want it now mentality world. That even sometimes happens in regards to grief. We rush through a funeral and then expect the beginning of healing and closure to take place in a few days, maybe even a few weeks. Jimmy Holland from the New York Sloan Kettering Hospital put it this way: grief is a train that does not run on anyone else's schedule. The expectation of healing becomes an added burden. We create a sense of failure because they have not reached closure. And that's often true in regards to how people are and how people think. A very simple equation for grief is this: love plus loss equals grief. If I love someone or something and I lose someone or something, it's only proper for it to be grief. Do you know that the first use of the word grief in the Bible is used by God? In Genesis chapter 6. We know John 3:16, God so loved the world that He created this world. He created a perfect place. He created Adam and Eve in the perfect garden. But He gave them a choice. And they made that choice to sin through the help of Satan. And that's when it says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 6, that God was grieved in His heart and sorry that He had made man. Love plus loss equals grief. When we talk about grief, we're not talking about some neatly packaged thing whereby if you follow this formula in a matter of weeks or maybe months, it's going to be gone. Sir, may I ask you to look there at this tangled ball of emotions and tell me what there is at the center? Denial. Grief is a tangled ball of emotions. It's all of this and much more. Sometimes in our classes, we'll just ask people, what are the emotions that you're dealing with? They're over and over and over. I mean, they're all different because a lot of it has to do with the kind of loss that we're dealing with. J. William Warden, who was a great psychologist and pioneer in talking about grief and loss, said that there were 4 steps that people have to have in regards to grief. First of all, accept the reality. That takes a long, long, long time, especially if the loss is sudden. People will ask me in classes, what's the greatest loss? And my answer is the greatest loss is yours, whatever it or they may be. Because for you, that's the situation. We could talk about, well, this loss seems to be, again, it's the person that we need to keep in mind. And so everyone's loss is different, and some have a lot more losses than others. To accept the reality takes a long, long, long time. We're not talking days, we're not talking weeks, we're talking months, we're talking years. In fact, the younger you are, the longer you're going to grieve over a loss. Why? Because potentially you're going to feel the void of that parent. Someone just recently talked about losing their parent, and they were the age of 3. They're going to feel that void over and over and over again. Why? Because that person is not in their life. And these notable moments that continue on, graduation from high school, graduation from college, marriage, the first child, all those things, they're going to feel that void because that person is not